Hi, I'm Bob Ross. I'm a small business owner in Peachtree City. That's down in Fayette County at the southern part of our region. I'm also a member of the Transportation Leadership Coalition to bring you a message about the Transportation Investment Act. And at the heart of it, I think it boils down to government acting responsibly with our tax money to alleviate congestion. And alleviation of congestion is the reason the act was passed, and you can find that in Section 7.
A number of the legislators that voted for that act have since changed their minds because of the project list that's been created.
There are three questions that I've got when I consider my choice. One of those is how much tax? Secondly, what am I getting for that tax? And thirdly, of course, what are we getting into? This slide will show you that, of course, we're going to raise about $7.2 billion over 10 years with the sales tax, and that includes a tax on food. What am I getting for that? Really three baskets worth of projects. The first of those is some money to the counties. It's 15% of the total, and that'll go back to your jurisdictions. And there's some questions that we've got about that. We're not really sure about what we're getting because half of the 70-plus jurisdictions in our 10 region, that's the counties and cities, haven't decided how it's going to be spent. It reminds me just a little bit about Nancy Pelosi saying we're going to have to pass the bill and then we'll figure out what's in it. The second major basket, as you can see, of projects is roads. And one gentleman in the audience at the Cherokee County debate asked the analyst from the government, after we spend all the money and all the projects are completed, how much change will there be in my commute? And the government official responded, the average commute time really doesn't change a lot. The third basket of goods is transit, and that's buses and trains. And to address that benefit, let's see how transit has performed, specifically MARTA, recently. And as you can see, MARTA has had declining ridership. They've had annual operating losses of over $500 million. And what else could we do with $500 million? We could invest that in Atlanta public schools, public safety, maybe address some of our water issues. They've also had to subsidize their operation by 80%. And who's paying the subsidy? Non-riders, non-users of MARTA are paying that 80% subsidy. And finally, it's accruing a $3 billion backlog in unfunded maintenance through the end of this decade. And the CEO, Beverly Scott, says, I don't know where that money is coming from.
Who is going to be stuck with the maintenance costs and operation cost after the 10 years? It's going to be us, the taxpayer, and increased taxes.
All of the transit projects combined are estimated to carry less than 2% of our regional commuters. So that's half of the TIA project money, 2% of commuters. And the $2.8 billion of that is partial funding for projects. When you read their descriptions, you see language like the initial phase. So my question is, how many other phases are there? What do they cost, and where is that money coming from? You also see that a number of the projects include operating and maintenance costs. And again, when the tax revenue stops, how do you sustain the operations and maintenance of those projects? Also, there's $931 million worth of project taxes that won't take a single car off the road. That's disturbing to me. This is a shot of what the connector looks like going into town without investing $3.2 billion in transit. And this is what it looks like afterwards. See the difference? It's kind of like, where's Waldo? Well, there are the two cars out of the 102 that would be taken off with transit. Now, the Atlanta Regional Commission, our government staff that analyzes these projects, has identified some economic impacts of the transportation referendum or the tax. One of those is they tout a 4-to-1 return on our investment. Well, that sounds pretty darn good. They're counting the economic benefits through the year 2040, but they're not counting all the economic costs, particularly of transit's operating and maintenance costs and any unfunded requirements. So I think it's got to be a little bit less than a 4-to-1 return on investment. We also hear about an $18 billion increase in regional personal income. Ladies and gentlemen, that boils down to 30 cents a day. When you look between now and 2040, divided by all of the people we'll have in the region on average, it's 30 cents a day. We also hear about 200,000 jobs being created. Well, they couch that as 200,000 jobs supported, and that's actually the number you get when you multiply the number of jobs times how many years each job is in existence. And the AJC rated the claim mostly false and said we're really looking at about 7,100 or so jobs, 7,400 on any year for that claim. Also, the AJC has shown us in their BizBeat section that the Metro Atlanta area is number 2 in job growth. This comes out of a March article, and we were beaten out only by Houston, Texas, and of course Texas doesn't have a state income tax, and they've also got an awful lot of energy jobs. And then the month after that, they run this article showing that the job growth in Atlanta, the picture is the best since January of 2009. Now, we still haven't got back all the jobs that we had prior to the recession, but we seem to be making pretty darn good progress. Well, in summary, our concerns, simply too much taxes for too little relief. The transit projects particularly require massive subsidies. They're only partially funded. We also have a question, what's happening to the budgeted funds, that money that the state already put against a number of these projects that are now going to be funded with TIA tax dollars? We'd like to know how much that is. Where is it going? Is it staying in our region or not? Who's making those decisions? And do citizens have any input? And finally, some concerns about the erosion of home rule. And that simply means that we're losing the ability within our county to decide our future. What can we do about all that? First, of course, is balance our infrastructure with our land use. Make sure that we don't overdevelop in areas that don't have the transportation infrastructure within it. Secondly, identify projects based on a cost-benefit criteria. How much traffic relief are we getting for the amount of dollars that we're putting into it?
Greta, the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, came up with a plan of their own. This is their blueprint for Metropolitan Atlanta transit development. Now, the irony comes in that it was the Metropolitan Atlanta Chamber of Commerce that endorsed this plan. Now, this plan doesn't call for rail. This plan calls for a regional express bus and regional bus rapid transit. This is much better than what the TIA has come up with.
We should also consider freight traffic routes around Atlanta and then leverage something that Americans have always done very well at, and that's using technology. And let me just talk for a second on 2 articles. Wired magazine did a full-length story on driverless cars and said that they were driving at 70 miles an hour without any human intervention on a busy public highway. Google has logged 150,000 driverless miles in California, and the state of Nevada has jumped out front by legalizing the use or authorizing it for driverless cars on their state roads. So they're getting ahead of the power curve here. Also on the right-hand side, you see a reference to a New York Times article from June 1st talking about advanced cruise control, which is already available as an option on a number of cars, including some Toyotas. And it lets the computer do the braking and accelerating as you keep a safe distance from the car in front of you. And as you can see in the slide, in their models, they said with just a quarter of the cars that are equipped with that option, they found that the cumulative travel time dropped 37%. That is significant. And delays dropped up to 20%. Even if we only got half of that benefit, think of the money we'd save and the additional congestion relief that we would experience. And finally, for free markets, Americans have always done great with that. Here are a couple of niche services that are operating now in and around Atlanta, and it's very difficult for the free market to compete when government's in the business and subsidizes its operation with taxpayer money by 80%. So in summary, growth creates traffic problems. We understand that. We're saying spend our taxes responsibly to fix them and vote no on July 31st. Now, after July 31st, stay engaged with your elected officials to identify projects and programs that meet your needs and the region's needs at a reasonable cost. Thank you very much.